You can listen to The Front on your smart speaker every morning. To hear the latest episode, just say, play the news from The Australian.
From The Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Claire Harvey. It's Monday, July 15.
Like this said, take a look at what happened.
An unforgettable moment in American politics. A gunman shoots Donald Trump and kills a spectator at a rally in Pennsylvania. Trump's right ear was grazed by a bullet, apparently fired by a 20-year-old man who had climbed on top of a building, reportedly armed with a high-powered automatic weapon. The Secret Service shot the man dead as attendees rushed to help the spectator who'd been shot dead. Here, a witness in a blood-drenched USA T-shirt speaks to CBS News.
I said, I'm an emergency department physician. Let me help you. The guy had spun around, was jammed between the benches. He had a headshot here. There's lots of blood, and he had brain matter.
On Monday, Republicans gather to endorse Trump as their candidate at the National Convention in Milwaukee, as global condemnation of the attack is led by Joe Biden.
It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening.
Live now at theaustralian.com.au, we have video, graphics, explainers and analysis. And in just a moment, I'm joined from the United States by our foreign editor, Greg Sheridan, who says Trump's courage under fire changes everything. Shots ring out at a rally in Pennsylvania, where Donald Trump is speaking to supporters. Secret Service agents pounce.
Ready? Move! Move! Go! We good? Shooters down. Are we good to move? We're clear! We're clear!
The former president and presidential candidate is whisked from the podium, blood splashed across his face. He lifts his fist to the crowd, bold and defiant. The would-be assassin, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, lays dead on a rooftop more than 250 metres away. One rally attendee is killed, a couple more critically injured. I discussed that stunning scene with The Australian's foreign editor, Greg Sheridan. He's in the US ahead of the Republican National Convention, happening in Wisconsin this week. I'm sure you haven't spent much time imagining what it would look like if Donald Trump was ever in mortal danger, but he responded in a very defiant and strong way, didn't he?
He certainly did, and I think that will be the iconic image out of all this. When Ronald Reagan was shot, he famously said to Nancy Reagan, honey, I forgot to duck. You know, Teddy Roosevelt was my favourite president of all time, Teddy Roosevelt.
Friends, our task as Americans is to strive for social and industrial justice.
He was shot while he was delivering a speech when he was running as a Bull Moose Independent after he'd left the presidency. And the bullet lodged in his breast pocket. There was a book or something that prevented it from going through and killing him, but it did cause him pretty bad bleeding. And he told the audience he'd been shot, but that wasn't enough to stop a bull moose, and he finished his speech and then went to hospital.
Secret Service personnel neutralized the shooter, who is now deceased. The Secret Service spokesperson goes on to say that one spectator was killed, two spectators were critically injured, so badly hurt.
One of the most moving parts of the video of Trump being shot, apparently in the ear on stage in the rally, was the actions of the Secret Service agents, Greg. They rushed towards him and then they got him up once they understood that the shooter had been neutralised, and put their bodies around him and their heads around his head to shield him from a bullet. You know, we really saw the best of America there, didn't we?
Absolutely. You could see under there that they're wearing vests, thank God they are, but they routinely phalanx around the person they're protecting so that the next bullet that goes towards the person they're protecting, them. And in fact, this happened in the Ronald Reagan shooting.
A fusillade of shots fired at close range. The president is hit, then thrown into his car by an agent. His press secretary wounded in the head, a Secret Service man and a policeman wounded, a gunman captured.
One of the Secret Service agents rushed in front of the president and was shot. And now he recovered, but he was shot. He took a bullet for the president, and if Reagan had taken another bullet, I would think that Reagan would have been killed. So these folks, they rush towards danger and they make a shield out of their own bodies.
Of course, the most famous presidential shootings are Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. Those two presidents did not survive their injuries, but every moment of, in Lincoln's case, the description of that instance, and in Kennedy's case, the video that we've all seen a billion times, is seared into our memories, isn't it?
This is the latest information we have from Dallas. I will repeat with the greatest regret. 2 priests who were with President Kennedy say he has died of bullet wounds.
Well, it certainly is. This is a grim and terrible situation. And, you know, we can't yet completely apportion blame or anything. But, you know, people accuse Trump of intemperate language. But I've been here in the United States this last week or 10 days, and every day the New York Times, the liberal media are full of the idea that Trump is the devil incarnate, that he is an existential threat to democracy, that America cannot survive a Trump victory, that this is the end of times and everything. And you can just about imagine some idiot getting the idea that, well, wouldn't it have been good if someone had assassinated Hitler before he took power? And the truth is, Trump's first term was a bit chaotic, but there was nothing undemocratic about it, and he lost the election. The courts overruled his objections to the election. He's perfectly entitled to make legal objections to the way the vote was counted. The courts ruled against him in all occasions, and no injury was done to American democracy, whereas I think the Democrats now have far outdone Trump in the way they've been willing to rip up American institutions and destroy American norms. You know, I'm of the view that these prosecutions of Trump are a grotesque abuse of process. They're intensely politicised prosecutions. Now, Trump engages in very intemperate rhetoric too. He sure does. But the kumbaya liberal left of American politics has fostered an atmosphere of hysteria and irrational alarmism about the idea of what might happen if Trump wins the election.
The one rational part of the fear about Donald Trump is, of course, the January 6th disorder at the Capitol, Greg.
We have a breach of the Capitol! Breach of the Capitol!
We saw there Trump speak to a crowd, members of which crowd then subsequently went to the Capitol and stormed it. Several people have gone to jail over their conduct on that day. If there was going to be sort of armed disorder in this campaign, Americans might have thought it would come from those kinds of people, from Proud Boys or MAGA Trump fans. It hasn't, as far as we know, come from that side of politics. What does that say about the atmosphere that we're in?
Well, January 6th was utterly disgraceful, and I thought Trump's actions on the day were utterly disgraceful. But even here, you've got to try to keep in touch with the facts. Trump, in his speech, which was emotionally inciting, did actually say, march peacefully. He did use the word peacefully. I heard it. I reported it. I saw it.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard today.
So you can't just kind of say that that didn't happen. The Capitol Police were wildly understaffed. Now, these vandals who stormed into the Capitol Hill and so on, that was grotesque, thoroughly deserves to be condemned. It was not a civil war. It was a demonstration which became violent. And, of course, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of demonstrations that became violent over the next few months in the Black Lives and defund the police demonstrations. Now, none of those rendered Joe Biden morally responsible for the people who lost their lives. And there is just a grotesque double standard in which the absolutely condemnable and horrible things that Trump says are presented as though they were the statement of Adolf Hitler, which they weren't.
Coming up, what an attempted assassination means for gun control in America and for the presidential race. Today is The Australian's 60th birthday. We're celebrating by doing what we do best, bringing our subscribers up-to-the-minute news, analysis and deep reporting. Join us at theaustralian.com.au and we'll be back after the break. Greg, there are reports that the shooter was using an AR-15 semi-automatic weapon, which is the gun of choice for mass shootings in the United States. Donald Trump has said in recent months that mass shootings are not a gun problem, that they're more of a mental health problem.
These people are mentally ill, and we have to study that also. Because, you know, it's them. They pull the trigger. The gun doesn't pull the trigger. They pull the trigger.
He's promised the National Rifle Association that if elected, no one will lay a finger on their firearms. He's also promised to undo some Biden gun restrictions if he's re-elected.
If the Biden regime gets 4 more years, they are coming for your guns, 100% certain. Crooked Joe has a 40-year record of trying to rip firearms out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. He's always wanted to do that.
Do you have the feeling, Greg, that this very hot issue of gun control in America, will the conversation be touched by this incident or not?
No, I wouldn't think so, not at all. I think overall the incident will probably be very, very helpful to Trump electorally and politically. The iconic image will be Trump defiant, taking a bullet for America. Sometimes people don't even think of Trump really as a human being, but the truth is if this bullet had been a quarter of an inch closer to him, he would now be dead. And the sheer shock of that would render most people paralysed. So Trump often seems like he's full of bluster and where's the substance, but Trump was in possession of himself, he knew what he was doing, and he wanted to make a gesture of defiance. I think this will be tremendously beneficial to Trump politically. Now, my own view of gun control is the Americans are bananas on gun control, but, you know, you might say the Democrats are in favour of gun control, the Republicans aren't, but the Democrats never make a serious effort at it. You know, Obama was president for 8 years, and for a number of those years he controlled the Senate and the House of Representatives, and nothing of any consequence happened on gun control.
So how do we think this will change the calculus, if at all, for the Democrats, Greg? We now have Trump in a moment of mortal danger, presenting himself bravely, a contrast to Joe Biden's image of frailty and confusion. Does this make it more urgent for the Democrats to persuade Joe Biden to step aside?
I think it does, Claire. So look, I'm going to give away a recorded quote here, which will come to haunt me if what I'm suggesting doesn't take place. But I find it very hard to see how Joe Biden can continue in the long run as the Democratic candidate. The American system is very powerful and it kind of runs itself to some extent. But you do need a presidential leadership. I mean, Woodrow Wilson famously in about 1919 had a stroke and had another 2 years of his term to run. And his wife ran things while he was more or less incapacitated. America can do that, but it's not the right way to run. And if you do that, you don't front up to seek re-election. I just don't see how Biden can possibly continue on as the Democratic candidate, although, you know, we live in an age of infinite impossibilities. The other thing is, I don't know if the New York Times and CNN and so on will be able to talk about Trump in exactly the same way as they have been doing the last couple of years. I mean, we could go through a litany of things. Hillary Clinton paid for a dossier which was completely alleging collusion between Russian intelligence agencies and Trump. Absolute hoax, complete baloney. Hunter Biden's laptop turned up before the last election, full of incriminating evidence about him, including a lot of evidence of criminal activity and very embarrassing stuff about his dad. Biden and his son both denied that the tape was real, and the Biden campaign got 51 former intelligence chiefs to say it looked like Russian disinformation, which turned out to be completely untrue. It was an 100% authentic laptop of Hunter Biden. So those 51 intelligence chiefs just trashed the reputation of the agencies which they had been involved in leading. And then now Biden is asking the whole of the world not to believe what it saw with its own eyes in the debate.
What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America.
And in fact, I think the Democrats would be much better served to have a little mini primary and select one of their good state governors and a red-hot new vice president, something like that.
Greg Sheridan is The Australian's foreign editor. We'll have live updates from the Republican National Convention and all the other flashpoints in American politics as today unfolds. Live at theaustralian.com.au.